Hi, welcome to Yeti at Large. Today we're going to take a deep dive in having a video removed from your channel, what that procedure looks like, what are some of the policies, how to find those, and how to potentially avoid that in the future. I've got my Cafe Du Monde coffee cup. Now I only wished I had one of their beignets.
Hi, and welcome to Yeti at Large. This is a channel focused on making the most out of what you have, no matter where you're at. Thanks for tuning in and helping out.
We have a lot to go over today, and we're going to be as quick as possible, so let's get right into it. A little while ago, I attended a political rally on the eve of a candidate appearing in the Court of Appeals on an election case that this candidate has brought forth, contesting the 2022 Arizona gubernatorial election. I attended the rally and the press conference afterward, and I posted a 90-minute video covering that. Several days after the video was posted, news reports started to circulate from journalists who were claiming that the candidate had potentially violated Arizona election law by posting signatures of voters for public viewing. Immediately following that, YouTube, I think it's Trust and Safety Department, pulled my video covering that without much explanation other than stating that it violated the community guidelines. So we did some research and we went right into what those community guidelines were, and we filed an appeal. I filed the appeal based on this was newsworthy event with unbiased reporting delivered in a factual and timely manner. They denied my appeal, but again provided very little explanation as to why. I've done some research and I communicated with other YouTube content creators that helped me pinpoint likely it was the fact that my video had shown the slides that featured the signatures in question that the candidate brought forth. So I believe the phrase that I've heard a lot lately is out of an abundance of caution. They removed the video to prevent the distribution and dissemination of potential misinformation. So that being said, that's our working theory. That's what we're moving forward with. I then reposted a much shorter version, just basically showing a little bit of the rally crowd and then my Q&A with this candidate directly after during the press conference. That has received no flag and has not been taken down, and I have not received a strike as of yet, only a warning for my first notification. So going into the facts and trying to learn from this situation, the first place I'll always turn to is the policy. And I found YouTube policy by just doing a straight Google search, and I discovered that they had their policies and they have what they refer to as community guidelines. And digging a little bit deeper into their community guidelines, we find this page here, and scrolling down, the closest thing that I could find was election integrity. Content advancing false claims that widespread fraud, errors, or glitches occurred in certain past elections to determine heads of government, or content that claims that the certified results of those elections were false, period. This policy currently applies to any past U.S. presidential election, the 2021 German federal election, the 2014, 2018, and 2022 Brazilian presidential elections. It does not specifically mention any state gubernatorial race. However, down below, there is a disclaimer that states, keep in mind that this isn't a contraction, a complete list. Improvement opportunity, YouTube. Don't use contractions in your official publications. So one of the things that's very difficult to navigate with the YouTube policies, right off the bat, I will tell you, having a background in human resources and municipal leadership, is that they're not indexed. They're not searchable. If you go check the human resource employee manual of any major corporation, or go to any state statutes or revised statutes or laws, you will find the first thing they are is indexed. very searchable. They will start with a number and then go into bullet points, probably the Roman numeral decimal or alphanumeric decimal system. YouTube, improvement opportunity. You've got to index your statutes and your policies to make them searchable and much easier to learn from and to utilize. These policies that you have posted don't meet the criteria for the definition of what a policy is. Improvement opportunity. See, one of the most difficult things that you can do is to write a policy or try to write a definition in a dictionary. A policy must be mutually exclusive yet jointly exhaustive, meaning it must exclude everything that does not belong in this specific policy, yet it must include everything that does. That's not easy to do, so I'm not being overly critical here, but such a large corporation and such a giant community conversation tool as a social media platform should do its content creators and its viewers the tremendous service of making that effort to have very clearly defined policies that are index searchable and shareable. Just a small improvement opportunity. So again, we are hunting for why we think the video was pulled down, and I believe we're fairly accurate that it showed those signatures. Interestingly enough, the video had been up and amassed many views, and it wasn't until local legacy media and national legacy media started airing stories calling into question that the posting of these questionable signatures could potentially violate Arizona revised statutes. On Google, and I typed in Arizona law signatures on ballots, and out of the first 5 or 6 postings I found, there were media outlets reporting the Secretary of State was potentially requesting the Attorney General investigate the candidate for posting these signatures online. Apparently the signatures showed up elsewhere, not just at the rally. And this seemed to scroll. There were many reports of this. So it's a newsworthy event that this could potentially violate state law. One outlet went so far as to post in quasi-editorial format this little clip here. Fact number 1, a person posts online what she claims to be signatures of more than a dozen voters. Fact number 2, Arizona law, Arizona revised statute 16-168, comma, section F says, and now pay very close attention to the grammar here, parentheses, that the month and day of birth date, comma, the social security number, ... and the records containing a voter's signature, ... shall not be accessible or reproduced by any person other than the voter, ... period, quotation marks. So by looking at the grammar, we realize that this person cut and spliced a chunk of something much larger and condensed it down to this small section. The third fact that they posted was the penalty for violating this Arizona revised statute, that it's a class 6 felony, the lowest class of felonies, for which a person is found guilty could receive fines, probation, or a prison sentence. Having been in public safety for a number of years and being credentialed in municipal governance and leadership, I have learned a couple of small things, not the least of which being that if you're going to refer to the Arizona revised statutes, it is daunting, it can be exhausting, and you must be very, very careful to fully read the complete statute and not only apply that against as the statute is specifically written, but what are the precedents surrounding the prosecution of this said statute. Here is the entire section F. And I have highlighted one small section and I have bracketed what is one sentence, not the longest run-on sentence you are going to find in municipal law. I will warn you right now. Grammatically, just a hot mess. I'm going to read this entire sentence for you, and we're going to focus on the highlighted section, and we're going to ask questions. We're not going to make any judgments on what this law means, how it is to be applied. or the validity of these news reporters' assertions that anybody who publishes a signature on a ballot or a reported signature on a ballot could be subject to an investigation for violation of this statute. Just in the blue brackets, just one sentence. Let's read it exactly as it's written. Nothing in this section shall preclude public inspection of voter registration records at the office of the county recorder for the purposes prescribed by this section, comma, except that the month and the day of birth date, comma, the social security number or any portion thereof, comma, the driver's license number or non-operating identification number, comma, the Indian census number, comma, the father's name or mother's maiden name, comma, the state or country of birth and the records containing a voter's signature and a voter's email address shall not be accessible or reproduced by any person other than the voter, comma, by an authorized government official in the scope of the official's duty, comma, for any purpose by an entity designated by the Secretary of State as a voter registration agency pursuant to the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, brackets, the statute, comma, for signature verification on petitions and candidate filings, comma, for election purposes and for news gathering purposes by a person engaged in newspaper, comma, radio, comma, television or reportorial work, comma, or connected with or employed by a newspaper, comma, radio or television station, or pursuant to a court order, period. And then finally, I included, notwithstanding any other law, a voter's email address may not be released for any purpose. So, horrible run-on sentence, very difficult to decipher. It leaves the layman, the average person, with many, many questions. What is signature verification? What is a candidate filing? Is that just a candidate filing paperwork to be eligible to be on a ballot? Or is a candidate filing include filing court paperwork for contesting election results? Judges would know that. Attorneys may know that. They may argue it both sides. For news gathering purposes, broadly defined, was this candidate involved in news gathering purposes? Were they trying to disseminate newsworthy information? It's not that it's so cut and dry and clear cut, but there's a lot more to this, and any reporter who wants to present an unbiased, factual view of this entire situation would need to include all that information to make sure that the reader has the benefit of the full amount of research to know that there's more angles to this. They may or may not necessarily apply. That'll be for the bench to determine. But there's a lot to that. I'd be very curious to know if this has ever resulted in a prosecution, especially in recent history, and what the precedent surrounding Arizona Revised Statute 16-168.f really is. I've also included here, this is the link to go directly to the Arizona Revised Statutes. And here is the exact screenshot from this publicly available website. I strongly recommend, especially if you're having trouble sleeping, that you read those and determine that. The number one thing I think here is that people would often refer to the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. The law is written one way and you can interpret it very much by the letter. But it also bears note that the bench will oftentimes consider what the spirit is. And the spirit here is to protect the sacred voter right. This, I don't want my identity being released third party or for political gain by any candidate, whether I support or I do not support that candidate. And my anonymity in the polling place has been the cornerstone of our voting process since the formation of this fine republic. So, under that spirit of the law, can I ask, was anybody's identity revealed? Do we have a victim? Has anybody come forward to say, I didn't appreciate that that looks very much like my signature and I feel that my identity potentially was compromised? I don't know that answer yet. I've done a little bit of research and I haven't seen that. Furthermore, I don't know if you would release that if I, as John Q, taxpayer and voter, went to the appropriate legal entity in the state of Arizona and raised my hand and say, I feel I've been victimized by this. I would be entitled to a certain level of discretion and privacy as well. These are all very important questions to ask. Interestingly enough, in court cases, if you go to court case lookup and you search basic information on known public disclosure of information, it is remarkable what you can find in public websites that's available in public a community. So I don't know if this disclosure represented a violation of this statute. However, I will tell you right now, mea culpa. I very much wished I had not shown that, and in the heat of the moment, recording the entire rally, I did record it and I did post it. Given my druthers, it would not change my timely and factual reporting of a newsworthy event if I had not shown those actual slides and I had moved away from the screen for just a moment. I believe I would do that. Furthermore, I don't believe that constitutes a quelling of public discourse, and I don't believe that that specifically, my choice to do that represents a tacit or implicit censorship. I don't believe it does that. And I would have no problem putting reasonable safeguards on my reporting to prevent the unintentional dissemination of protected information. Interesting. I think there was a huge improvement opportunity for the legacy media to do more comprehensive reporting, and I see where they missed the total story. And moreover, the old saying that we were taught in journalism schools, if it bleeds, it leads. And that was always above the fold front page. I would say that goes to the concept that journalists tend to want to be sensational and really get those driving, striking headlines. That's not our style here at Yeti at Large. Our style here is balanced and comprehensive. And I have reported on a great number of things that I personally don't agree with or don't seat with my preferences politically, municipally, socially, spiritually. But a great number of people did, and I've reported those as presented in order to provide you, the viewer, with as much information as possible to make your own decisions. So I received the notification. We'll post it here. It was not a strike. It was a warning because it was my first violation. I actually appreciate that. Thank you. And I appealed based on the fact that I was doing newsworthy reporting of factual, timely events, and I lost that appeal again with minimal information. And I'm moving forward. I posted a community poll where I asked people, should I do this video, knowing that it may be taken down? I don't believe that it will, because we're not doing anything controversial here. We're just discussing an event that took place based on published guidelines and the impact that it could potentially have with the newsworthy event and the Arizona revised statutes. This won't be the last we discuss this, because I'm very interested in how this case turns out. I've stated in previous videos I posted, I take no sides regardless of who I support going into a court case other than the truth. The side that I'm on is the truth. I very much want to see the naked, unbiased, unabashed truth come out and let the chips fall where they may. I have no problem raising my hand and stating when I've made a mistake. And not necessarily a mistake, but where I see where I could have done better. I think we all should engage in more of that, take our ego out of it, and we would do well. Moving forward, I will be very careful to create a checklist for myself, which I've already started writing, that I will run my video through, just like this social media platform runs the video through. And I will check to see if there's copyright violations, things that people would define as dis or misinformation, or if I'm unfairly disclosing anyone's identity. Now, I have a list of videos that I wish to post that are nearly 6 long. And many of those I'll need to be very careful to make sure that, just like Sergeant Joe Friday, it's just the facts, ma'am. And that I don't disclose personally identifying information that could potentially be harmful to people, even when many times that publicly identifying information is going to be available in public records. I don't want to be the conduit to cause anybody harm, whether I agree or disagree with their current positions or their past actions. So we've discussed the whole statute surrounding what I believe was the reason why my video was pulled down. We've talked a little bit about how the legacy media abbreviated their reporting on this, and that was just one reporter's example, but I saw it with several because many news outlets will pick from the feed, if you will, either AP or the like, and you'll see the Des Moines Register talking about Arizona, but they didn't have a reporter on the ground here. And we've talked about what we're going to do better. I would very much appreciate if you would leave a comment down below. Please share this with somebody. If you have any specific, and I mean specific and well-trained observations, if you're a credentialed bar certified attorney with expertise in election law and this arena, I would very much appreciate your input and feedback. There's so much that I can do better, and this process is a journey. Most content creators will tell you that they learn every time, mostly from their viewers in the comments, and we move forward. I want to thank you so much for being part of this. I very much appreciate and value my subscribers and viewers. This is a small channel. We're growing every day, and I would really appreciate it if you've made it this far. Please give us a thumbs up. Please share this channel with someone, and please subscribe. I'm hoping to get to that threshold of 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 view hours just to see if it can be done.